This week on CrunchWeek, we're talking about the massive layoffs that hit Zynga, OMGPOP's closure, and NSA spying on Verizon customers. Hi, I'm Leena Rao. Welcome to CrunchWeek.
I'm Colleen Taylor.
I'm Drew Olanoff.
We're going to be talking about Zynga layoffs first. The company got hit with massive layoffs this week. Around 500 people let go. A bunch of studio shutdowns in different cities. Really sad news for the company. What do you think this means for Zynga going forward?
Well, I think it was completely shocking to a lot of people. I mean, we all know that Zynga hasn't been doing as well as a lot of people hoped, but no one knew that it was really this bad. Like a 20% workforce cut is huge, and the stock market was obviously pretty surprised too. They actually had to halt trading at one point during the day because people were just, you know, it was like a bank rush. People were just selling their shares, and the stock was just plummeting because there wasn't demand for it.
And it was already at a low point, so yeah, it's really disappointing, I'm sure, for the company and Mark Pincus. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, I mean, they made a big deal about opening up shop in LA, where a lot of competitors are, like EA. They shut that place down, and they're shutting down things in New York, and yeah, I mean, they're floundering. It's a mess. I mean, they're trading under $3, and they're positioning it as, you know, we've got to go more at mobile. We're switching gears away from web, but I just think that's bull. They're a mess.
Yeah, I think they have to find, you know, what's going to attract customers. You know, what's going to attract users, because then hopefully the ad dollars and rest of the revenue will come. But clearly, you know, things are not quite as strong on the social gaming front for them.
And that was because
they
relied
were in the past.
Yeah, they relied so much on Facebook. I mean, and then Facebook started putting in functionality to let you block requests from certain games, which hurt Zynga, and that was their whole thing. Is you could spread things to your newsfeed, and people would, you know, click on things and Farmville. But
excuse me.
Bless you. But that doesn't work anymore.
Right. I think that there's also something to be said here, though, because, yeah, Zynga's business model is faltering a bit, but then there's a bit of schadenfreude here because Zynga has so famously been really over the top in, you know, perks for employees and parties that they've thrown. And their San Francisco headquarters here just down the block from us, I mean, if you've been inside for a press event or something, it's crazy in there. And so, you know, they used to spare no expense just a couple years ago, you know, in terms of giving perks to employees and having this really fun environment. And so right now it's kind of like with the tail between the legs, they're cutting costs. And I think there's a lot of resentment from even inside the company of the people who have been laid off.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you know, from all the sort of reports that have been pieced together, it sounds like people were really blindsided by these layoffs. And, you know, they were all sort of like called into a conference room at once and kind of told to leave. And, you know, there are all these reports of like these crazy parties afterwards from people who were laid off.
And some of the people were even, it said it felt like a relief, and which tells exactly
like
how bad
it is.
But it tells how bad it is at Zynga, where, I mean, there was shock, but then there was also like, thank God it's over. Like, I don't have to work here anymore. No, Zynga, I mean, they've been a data-driven company, and, you know, they haven't had a hit in a long time, and you mentioned the acquisition of OMGPOP, which is kind of a story in and of itself. So that was the Draw with Friends, or what was it called?
Draw something.
Draw something.
Yeah, exactly.
Which we actually broke, our colleague Mike Cutler, last year. You know, a huge acquisition for Zynga. I think it was its biggest acquisition yet at the time, and maybe still. But you know, now it's no longer part of, you know, that office was completely closed. The founder has left. I mean, it's just kind of, you know, an interesting kind of twist of events, I think.
And I think that's an interesting thing here, too. And when you say that shutting down things, saying that they need to focus more on mobile, and that's where these layoffs come from. I think the idea is that if you really want to focus more on mobile, why did you lay off the entire team of OMGPOP, which is ostensibly a really savvy mobile team? So there are a lot of questions there, but it's just funny. March 21st, 2012, acquired OMGPOP for $200 million, and then
they wrote off part of it, and it was just, it was
Well, and also, you know, some of these games that they've acquired have not been able to grow while they've been in-house at Zynga. And you have to think that, you know...
What does that mean?
What does that mean? Maybe there's something off about the culture in the company where, you know, whether it be on the engineering side or the product side or the creative side, where, you know, something has to change to try and, you know, make sure that the product is growing and going in the right direction.
Right. And when you hear this line about the video game business all the time, it's a hit-driven business. And they haven't had a hit in a long time, and they haven't come up with their own hit. They very famously like to copy other, you know, popular games, but by the time they copy them, those games that they've copied are no longer popular. Right. So they just don't seem to be picking the right things to do. Like, they're not doing anything new.
I really like the takeaway, though, that Ryan Lawler wrote, because one of these ex-Zynga employees took to Reddit anonymously, because I'd imagine that they've all signed strict NDAs to make sure that they get their severance packages. But one ex-employee went to Reddit and was doing an Ask Me Anything, and Ryan Lawler wrote a cute little post about it, but there's a lot of truth in it, too, that people started to know that the company was going downhill when the free snacks weren't so good anymore. The Odwalla was gone. The Red Bull was gone. The happy hours got less ostentatious. So that's kind of a lesson for, I suppose, everyone in Silicon Valley. But maybe it's better to not have those ridiculous perks in the first place so that you don't need to take them away at any time.
Yeah, well...
And there's also just not sucking.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, really, I mean...
It's a good lesson.
I know a bunch of people that work over at Zynga. I feel really bad for them because it doesn't seem like for the past year anyone knows what's going on.
Right.
Do they still work at Zynga?
Yeah, they're San Francisco people.
Right.
But there's just no there's no vision. There's, I mean, I think Mark Pincus is a smart guy. I mean, he seems really aggressive with things, but they don't know where to go. Like, where do you go?
Well, hopefully we'll be telling a different tale in a year, but I want to...
It'd be interesting to see where some of these people go, though. If they will go, if they'll start their own smaller shops, you know, I mean, or if they go to EA. A lot of things have spun out.
I hear Yahoo's hiring, so...
Never heard of it.
I want to switch gears to a big story this week. The NSA reportedly is spying on Verizon customers and collecting information from these mobile customers. How do you guys feel about it? I have an interesting take. I'm actually not that bothered by it if it's in the name of national security. But I know that, you know, there are a lot of privacy implications and...
Right. I think a problem is that it's secret and that this hadn't been public until The Guardian broke it. You know, maybe if you had known that your stuff was being read, then you wouldn't have a problem with it if it were transparent.
I'm not a Verizon customer, by the way,
I'm not a
maybe
Verizon
if I
customer
was,
either, thank
I would
goodness.
feel differently.
Not that I make a lot of phone calls, but I sure do text a lot, and they're collecting location data as well. I think this is the fallout of what everybody's waiting. After 9/11, I think everybody was fully on board. It's like, yes, for national security, please do collect all the things that you need, whatever keeps us safe. And I think some of this stuff's been swept under the carpet. Now it's coming out. These documents are coming out, and people are starting to rethink and go, okay, why are we still doing this? And like, what's it being used for?
Right.
I mean, that's still what's unclear even from the Guardian report was what is this being used for? The implication is, since it's the NSA, that it is for Homeland Security or something along those lines, but it's unclear what it's being used for.
And Verizon's not commenting on it. And
right. I think there's also a feeling of betrayal from Verizon customers feeling like Verizon was dealing with the government in this way behind their backs and not telling them. It's interesting how technology is changing. Maybe we thought 10 or 15 years ago certain kinds of listening in or measures that people were taking for our security were acceptable. But then when you start to get into your cell phone conversations, and just this week too, it's divergent, but the Supreme Court ruled that DNA samples can now be taken just in the same way that fingerprints can be taken.
Right.
But we don't know yet, you know, what all can be done with a DNA sample. We're just in the earliest days of this kind of stuff. And so, you know, the limits of having a fingerprint are pretty well known, whereas a DNA sample, the government having a repository of this is a little more scary. And I think that that's also what's happening here with the NSA.
Well, I'll report back when they start you know, when the report comes out about Sprint, and then I'll get all upset.
Then you'll get mad.
Then I'll get mad. This is actually a special Crunch Week this week because we're saying goodbye to Drew, who is leaving us for Yahoo. It's been so great working with you, and we're really excited for you to start feeding us all those awesome scoops that you're going to give us. That would be perfect if you could just do that.
No comment. I'm getting used to that. No, it's going to be fun. There's obviously a lot of things going on over there, and you know, the people that I've talked to that have worked there, that have even been there for years, are kind of excited about the things that are happening. So I came from the company side before. It's been really cool doing the journalist part, because I know how much hard work goes into building things and releasing things. I think sometimes we all forget, and readers forget, it's like, you know, this app just appeared, and it's like, oh, it stinks, or no, it doesn't. But we don't really think about what goes on behind it and the people that that are behind it. So we'll see. We'll see what I can do.
I like that today you're still wearing your TechCrunch green.
Of course,
Yes.
You haven't started wearing the
purple.
Do you have a lot of purple gear?
I don't as of yet, but I'll have to pick up some purple stuff.
You will, yeah.
But I'll still rock the green.
Well, we are going to miss you. Come visit us.
Of course.
At Crunch Week sometime soon.
We'll have to do a TechCrunch day at Yahoo's office.
Awesome. Well, that's all for this week. Thanks for tuning in.